The Pacific does not keep time. It keeps secrets. 1,000 miles of black water breathe in and out against volcanic stone, and somewhere between the surf and the mist of promise was broken. July 1944. A bomber vanished into smoke, and 8 names drifted into paperwork. The war moved on. The ledgers were balanced. But on Saipan, fishermen still speak softly when the wind rises. They say a man fell from the sky that summer, burned broken, silent, and refused to die. He had an American uniform and eyes that would not look at the horizon. He said 2 words: no war. The island gave him water, shade, and a place to disappear. The government gave him a line in a file, missing in action. Between those 2 truths, the ocean wrote its own version and hid it in the waves. A name remained there, unclaimed, repeating in the phone: George H. Fox. On Tinian, the morning came with fuel fumes and metal. A B-24 Liberator crouched on the runway, its aluminum skin beaded with sweat. Lieutenant George Henry Fox, age 27, Indiana cornfield behind him, the night sky a flack above him, checked the clipboard twice and the faces once. They were young and already old. A gun with a photo in his pocket, a navigator counting miles like prayers, an engineer who knew when a baron was about to scream. Orders were plain: recon Saipan's coastal batteries, return before dark. Orders are always plain, until they are not. The propellers blurred into 4 identical storms. Wheels lifted from coral dust. The island fell away. Above the white seam where sea meets air, the crew settled into their small eternities. Each man alone with his gauges, his luck, his thoughts of what might be waiting at the day end of the way days are supposed to end. Saipan rose from the horizon like a black tooth, and the air around it bloomed with iron. Flak burst open like night flowers, petals of smoke stitched by tracer lines. Fox kept her level. The camera ports blinked, ticking off frames of gun pits and trench lines the way a heart ticks off fear. Then impact, a punch below the ribs. The right engine coughed fire. The second followed like a bad idea. Metal trembled into a new shape, the shape of falling. "Hold," he said, and the word was both order and prayer. The interphone hissed, then died. Somewhere aft, a man shouted and was wind. Parachutes opened like small, desperate moons. Others never did. The island tilted. The sea climbed the windows. Between the shock and the sound, Fox made a final arithmetic. Altitude, drift, the second before decision becomes a sentence. "Jump," he said. Then flame took the rest. Debris rained like a broken alphabet. Rivets, a torn boot, a photograph of a girl whose name the sea would never learn. On the reef, the wreck groaned once and sank into blue silence. Days later, a storm rolled through. After storms, the ocean returns what it does not want to keep. Villagers found him wedged between black rock and white foam. A man scraped raw by coral, face half burned, sleeves stuck to flesh. The uniform told one story, the eyes another. He tried to sit. The world tipped. He said nothing until water touched his lips. Then the words, "No war." They wrapped him in mats and carried him uphill, away from patrols and questions. In a cave where rain had carved the ceiling smooth, the cool air met the salt of his wounds, and the island's breath, slow, green, human, began to cover the sound of dying machines. The cave smelled of wet lime and leaf smoke. Women came first. They always do, with boiled herbs, strips of cloth, water carried in shells. They cut the shirt from his shoulder and found the arm wrong, said it as best they could, and sang low, not words, just warmth shaped into sound. He slept, surfaced, slept again. At night he traced, with 2 fingers on stone, the outline of wings. When his mouth worked, questions came to him like fish that will not bite. How many jumped? How long did the fire last? How loud is a man's name when it breaks? He asked for nothing but shade. Outside, the jungle rehearsed the same lines it said before the war and would say after. Rain on leaves, geckos ticking, surf folding itself. The island kept in the way the ocean keeps secrets, not cruelly, only completely. Secrets have weight. Even a footfall can carry it. Patrols combed the gullies with bayonets for fingers, radio for ears. One morning after rain, a line of prints led from the stream to the cave mouth and did not return. The villagers had already chosen kindness over safety. That choice was found and punished. He went down the hill between rifles, rope on his wrists, the sea loud and useless beside him. In the command tent, an officer opened a notebook and turned a pencil into a sentence. Pilot, American, silent, praise. He would not eat meat. He bound other men's wounds with the same hands that had been meant for instruments and levers. At night, he sat with his back to a wall that was not home and closed his eyes against the noise of other people's sleep. The camp did not have nights, only different kinds of gray. Bamboo walls flexed with wind. Tin roofs counted the rain. Men whispered in broken languages that somehow meant the same thing. He worked in the infirmary because hands must do something. Rinsed cloths, lifted heads, held fever still. A guard wrote in a diary no one would ever read. He smiles like a man who already knows. Orders arrived bone dry from a place that had never seen mud. No prisoners on the Americans' land. That is the shape of certain sentences, short, sharp, obedient to nothing but fear. And one evening, as Stormlight turned the world into a negative, his corner of the camp was empty. No footprints, no cut wire, only the sound of rain on tin and a feeling the island knew well, absence shaped like a man. When Marines finally walked the same mud, they found ledgers and latrines, both full. Names were entered, bodies were counted, the arithmetic of endings. Somewhere in a stateside office, a clerk straightened a stack of forms and typed a small, perfect word that breaks families in half. Missing. A telegram crossed wheat fields to a house where a woman had already learned how to stand up after being struck by silence. She lit a candle in the window for the night patrols of the dead. People said, "He died a hero." She said nothing. Between what the war teaches and what a mother knows, there is a distance that maps cannot measure. Years are like tides. They erase until only the stubborn shapes remain. On Saipan, a story clung to the rocks. Fishermen said a tall, pale man lived near the cliffs. Thin as a mast, hands nicked by rope and coral. He spoke little Japanese, a handful of Chamorro, and a kind of English that had forgotten how to hurry. He fixed nets, set broken fingers, taught a child to breathe through pain. At sunset, he faced inland, never out to sea. When asked his name, he said George, and the word sounded like something carried too long in a pocket. Patrols came and went. He stepped back into leaves and shadow. The island made room for him the way a scar makes room on skin. Tender, ordinary, permanent. One season folds into another until a man becomes a habit the island keeps. Illness came like weather, without malice, without surprise. They buried him above the surf line where the spray can speak but not erase. A cross of driftwood, a handful of shells, and 2 letters carved by a careful knife. GF. No flag, no date, no rank. The ocean does not salute, but it remembers. Tourists walk past and see a view. Elders pause and hear a name. Somewhere far away, a file still says missing. But here, where the wind knows the shape of his footsteps, the accounting is finished. Not enemy, not ally, only human. Only a man who stayed. History files the loudest moments and misplaces the quiet ones. Saipan learned to live with both. The airport hummed. The markets filled. Schoolyards rang with new laughter. Yet inside the limestone and banyan roots, the old war kept breathing. Children dared each other to peer into the cave and swear they felt a cold draft on the hottest day. Grandmothers folded palm fronds for church and told the girls not to mock the dead. They have longer memories than the living. Sometimes at dusk, a fisherman would stop mid-stride and tip his chin toward the cliffs, as if answering a roll call only he could hear. The story of the white stranger sharpened at the edges. A man who spoke little, hurt others never, and avoided the water like a wound. No one remembered when rumor became routine or when mercy became habit, only that the island preferred its ghost gentle rather than angry. And this one, like the sea, kept to rhythm, far from coral and gunmetal water. Winter pressed its face to Midwestern windows. In a small house set back from a county road, a mother measured years by harvest and telegrams. She kept his jacket on a wooden peg. a ration book in a kitchen drawer, and a habit of speaking softly in rooms where he used to laugh. When neighbors had surrendered to the truth, she adjusted the wick and watched the candle rise. The county paper printed names most Sundays. She cut them out and folded them on the candlestick like thin, gray prayers. The world moved forward on factories and elections. The house preferred a slower machinery. Letters never posted. A radio turned low. If someone asked whether she believed in miracles, she said she believed in tide. What does that mean so far from the sea? They'd ask that even absence, she'd answer, has a way of returning as itself. In a hut surrendered to mildew and vines, a missionary sorting cast-offs found a notebook with salt-warped corners. Its pages smelled of smoke and rain. Inside, in a steady hand that stumbled only on certain letters, were drawings of wings and coastlines, and short entries like dropped anchors. 7 left. 2 opened. I spoke too late. I hear engines at night. I do not look up. I owe the island breath. No name. Only GF at the back cover, pressed hard enough to leave a ghost on the next page. The missionary brought it to town, where the pages were weighed by men who mistake ink for truth and absence for fiction. They filed it under curious and closed the cabinet. The villagers did what villages do with evidence that already matched what they knew. They took flowers to the cliff and added a handful more shells to the base of a wooden cross. Decades later, men who had once memorized checklists and death odds stepped off tour buses with knees that didn't trust stairs. They came in pairs, talking softly, measuring the present against rooms that only existed behind their eyes. A former crew chief stared too long at the trilene and said nothing for the rest of the day. Another, a radio operator who'd learned to hear doom between static, stood by the water and confessed he still slept with the light on. When a guide pointed out the cave and the cross, they removed their caps as if an officer had entered. One veteran lifted a trembling hand, palm out toward the jungle. "You did your best," he said, as if speaking to a man who had been waiting for that permission since the sky caught fire. The wind, practice and ceremonies, carried the words upslope and let them rest. Archaeologists inventoried the passed-away quartermaster's inventory rations, count, label, preserve, repeat. In the late 90s, a small team worked along the cliff where storms peeled back grass like bandages. They cataloged a bent spoon, a brass button, shell casings that still smelled faintly of rain. Then, shallow as a breath, the outline of a grave. Carefully, gloved hands released a story the earth had kept polite. Bones light with time, fragments of cloth browned into the color of soil, and a corroded tag whose letters still argued with rust. GF. The lab would speak of contamination and insufficiency. The islanders did not require proof. They had practiced truth long enough to recognize its face even when the features were worn. They set a bowl of water by the cross that night and watched the moon rinse the waves. When reports reached offices far from salt and thunder, they encountered the most durable fortification in any army. Procedure. Without chain of custody perfection, there could be no confirmation. Without confirmation, there could be no closure. A spokesman read words that had been ironed flat long before he spoke them. Then the file returned to its drawer, the drawer to its cabinet, the cabinet to its long sleep. Meanwhile, on Saipan, 2 more shells and a red hibiscus appeared by the cross. The ocean did not ask for affidavits. The wind did not sign forms. The village had already ruled. A man can be both lost and found, depending on which shore you stand. If you must choose between a stamp and a story, they chose the one that fed the living. Theories multiply in the absence of a single sentence. Perhaps he feared a tribunal that never awaited him. Perhaps he fell in love with a coastline that gave him back breath. Perhaps shame is heavier than a parachute, and he couldn't carry both across the ocean. Or perhaps exile was the only language left that told the truth. That command and courage had parted company in a sky filled with fire, and a man must sometimes live the balance sheet where others cannot read it. He fixed nets because hands know their way in the dark. He healed children because some wounds are proof that the world can still be persuaded. He would not face the horizon because forgiveness, if it comes, should come from behind, quietly, like shade. Typhoons teach quickly. They tear the vocabulary from roofs and leave only conjunctions, and then, law stacked upon laws, Then the sun returns as if nothing had happened. After one such storm, the village found cross stubborn and upright, the offerings washed clean but not gone. A single shell gleamed as if new. The sea returns what it can live with, said an elder. The rest it keeps. In that theology, the man they called a ghost belonged to both realms, carried and returned, withheld and offered. Children, who understand paradox instinctively, nodded and asked whether ghosts could swim. Better than we do, she said, and sent them to gather driftwood for the next time the wind forgot itself. In a museum thousands of miles away, a wall carries more weight than stone should. Names in brass, dates in granite. Sacrifice reduced to typography. Visitors pass, counting syllables the way rain counts windows. One hand pauses on a single line, Lt. George H. Fox, MIA, July 1944. The plaque offers nothing else. No cave, no herbs, no nets mended, no child smiling up with fever finally gone. Memorials are honest but incomplete. They record the moment of breaking, but cannot track the years spent learning not to cut others with the same shards. Somewhere, the ocean finishes a caption. Stayed, helped, endured, forgave no one, least of all himself. Found peace on a cliff that never asked its papers. Ask the tide what it remembers. It will show you only motion. But inside that motion is bookkeeping older than empires. It tallies wrecks and weddings, whispers and orders, mercy and its counterclaims. Somewhere in that ledger is a line item for a man who refused both rescue and rage, who built a vocation out of tending small harms because he could not repair the large one. The sea carries his name without ceremony, George H. Fox, rolling it forward the way it rolls shells, until the edges are kinder. On Saipan, they still bring flowers, and sometimes a child places a toy boat by the cross and watches it drift, then return, then drift again. Lessons arrive as waves do, again, until even absence sounds like home.